Are you ready to take your business to the next level? Every day there are countless books and articles that are published offering the key on how to make your business a success. It's easy to feel overwhelmed trying to keep up and run your business. That's why Deb Creer created the Business Power Hour. Keep up on the latest trends, best practices, and techniques for how to make your business a success. Let the Business Power Hour do the heavy work for you.
Good morning, good morning. I'm Deb Creer, and I am passionate about giving professionals the tools that they need to make themselves and their businesses as successful as possible. I'm still a little croupy, still got that cold. You know, I've heard people say they've had it for 5 and 6 weeks, and I'm thinking, holy cow, I'm only in week 2. But hopefully we'll make it through without anything disastrous happening. But I do sound a little bit different for the people who are used to me. But today we're going to have so much fun, and we're talking about a topic that for some reason for this month seems to be the hot topic. We've talked about it with at least one guest, maybe more than that. And that's the valuation of businesses and buying and selling your business or another business. It's a very cool topic. It's very interesting to me. So I'm really happy that we're talking about this so much. And so please join me in welcoming today's guest, Terry Lammers, to our program today. Welcome, Terry.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. I'm looking forward to it.
Great. Well, let me tell people a little bit about you. So Terry Lammers is a certified valuation analyst and co-founder, managing member of Innovative Business Advisors. He was president and owner of Tri-County Petroleum for more than 20 years before joining Regions Bank as VP of Commercial Banking after selling his business in 2010. Armed with vast financial expertise and decades of truly hands-on business leadership, Terry now works with his team at Innovative Business Advisors to guide current business owners looking to sell their enterprises, as well as prospective buyers. Terry's new book, You Don't Know What You Don't Know, is an in-depth examination of the process of buying, growing, and eventually selling a business. With Terry's guidance, both current and aspiring business owners are sure to walk away with a wealth of knowledge and advice to lead them down the path to business success in every stage. So again, Terry, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you. Who's that guy you was just talking about?
I know. Don't we love it when our bios are read? We always sound so fantastic. But of course, they're true. We're not exaggerating. But it's always kind of fun when we hear our own bios.
Yeah. No, it is all true. So it's been a long journey. So Enjoy helping people and passionate about doing it.
Well, take us along that journey. How is it that you decided, because you have kind of gone through several different career iterations, maybe is the way to say it. How did you get to where you are in this passion you have today?
Well, so the oil company was a family business. So I grew up with that family business and driving gas trucks when I was 12 years old already. But I worked away from the company for a little bit, and then I came back, and things weren't so cherry when I came back to the family business. It was just me, my mom and dad, and I jokingly say that we had 2 trucks, and it was a good day if they both started. So
that is the thing with family businesses, right?
Yeah. So, there's a story behind how I got to that point. But before I came back to the company, I was working at another bank in mercantile banking, credit card finance. So I learned a ton of information from them. I was in their finance department, and there was 3 of us that did the finances for the financial reporting for $500 million credit card portfolio. So that was a good experience. So when I came back to the company, we had the opportunity to buy another company, and I knew by doing that, I would put us back in the black. So I helped facilitate that deal, and that did get us back in the black and kind of started the ball rolling. And over the course of the next 20 years, had the opportunity to buy 11 companies in total, which grew us from $750,000 a year to $42 million.
Ooh, I bet your parents were happy.
What's that?
I bet your parents were happy with that.
Oh yeah. Yeah. It was a wild ride, but there's even a story behind that. In 2006, you talk about the 5 Ds, of business, death, disability, divorce. In 2006, my dad had a heart attack and had to leave the business. And that was really what kind of led to me selling the business in 2010 after he left. It just, he survived, thankfully, but
Good.
it just didn't have the same,
Mhm.
gumption for it
Right.
anymore.
Mhm.
So, and I had the company valued because I had
Mhm.
no idea what it was worth
Right.
by valuation analyst, and ended up selling the company to Growmark, which
Mm.
is based out of Bloomington, Illinois. They're a
Mhm.
$6 billion agronomy company.
Mm.
And after that, I had to work for them for 6 months, and then I was done. So I sat around the house for 3 months
Mhm.
watching the Today Show in the morning and The Price is Right at noon and Oprah
Mhm.
in the afternoon. And after about 3 months, my wife's like, "You're going to get a job."
You're done. Mhm. Mhm.
So apparently, my house is a marital asset that I'm not allowed to be at during the day.
Mhm. Yeah.
Um, so I got a call from Regions Bank, and they
Mhm.
wanted me to do banking. And
Mm.
I was always kind of a finance guy.
Mhm.
So I'm like, you know what, that's interesting. And I'd obviously done a ton of banking with buying the companies that we bought. I had a
Mhm.
$4 million line of credit because we had $3 million in accounts receivable.
Mhm.
And I got to work close in town. It was all good. So
Mhm.
went to Regions Bank, and Regions is a big bank and they're a good bank. So I'm not saying nothing bad about them, but it was very
They're a
interesting.
big
Yeah,
bank.
they are. So everything's got to fit in the box,
Mhm.
right?
Mhm.
Which was a little bit outside of my style, but it was very interesting to see how they look at things,
Mhm.
on the other side of the fence
Right.
from what I was
Right.
looking at. Because
Mhm.
even as a business owner at the time, you're taught about cash flow and you add
Mhm.
depreciation back and
Mhm.
amortization. But in the back of your mind, you're like, well, are they really looking at cash flow, or are they really
Mhm.
looking at net income?
Mhm.
And then it was just really neat to see, the bring somebody through a loan process and listen to what the underwriters are talking about.
Mhm.
And from a business owner, all these quirky rules that you got to do,
Mhm.
for the bank. It's like,
Right.
well, there's reasons
Oh,
for that.
that's why. Yeah.
They,
Hmm.
they've got
Mhm.
stories about how they've lost money
Mhm.
because somebody built a building on the other side of the property line,
Mhm.
and just crazy things.
Mhm.
But after 3.5 years, I kind of got my entrepreneurial spirit back.
Mhm.
And then, it also gives you time to reflect. And, it's what do I want to do for the rest of my life? And what
Mhm.
did I enjoy doing?
Mhm.
Well, I enjoyed buying companies.
Hmm.
So in 2014, my first partner and I started Innovative,
Mhm.
and I went and got my CVA designation because
Mhm.
that's how I sold my business, right? I
Mhm.
had it
Right.
valued. So I wanted,
Mhm.
that's a national designation
Mhm.
through NACVA, the National Association of Certified Valuation Analysts.
Mm.
And so Innovative does three things. We help people buy and sell companies.
Mhm.
Our target customers are people that have a company with a value between 1 and 20 million. I am CDA, so we do a lot of business
Mhm.
valuations. And then we have a coaching platform that we call CEO2, the
Mm.
number 2 CEO.
Mhm.
So Chief Everything Officer to Chief Executive
Oh,
Officer.
okay.
And what we do with that coaching program is it's not exit planning, but it's teaching clients the true value of their
Mhm.
business,
Right.
how to grow value in it, and getting them to understand their financial statements.
Mhm.
It completely amazes me how I run into people that run pretty big companies and they know nothing about their financial
Mhm.
statements. So,
Yeah,
that's what,
somebody else is dealing with that.
yeah, exactly. So we make sure that they're legible and
Mhm.
we call them smart, that you can read them. So it's
Mhm.
amazing the number of times that we've had a CPA fired because they're doing a terrible job,
Mhm. Mhm.
or a bookkeeper and get them a CPA.
Right.
So uh, my big thing is to put the income statement into a trend, so a
Mhm.
monthly trend.
Mm.
And what I don't like about regular financial statements is you see what you did this month and what you did last year this month,
Right.
or what you did January through
Mhm.
October and last year January through
Mhm.
October.
Mhm.
I like to put it in a 12-month trend.
Mhm.
We do
Right,
that with the
especially
income.
if you're like a cyclical business
Yeah,
or,
yeah. So you can
Mhm.
see what's going on.
Mhm.
We do that with the income statement, the balance sheet, and then I create them a ratio analysis page.
Mhm.
So we take like 10 key financial ratios, like your current ratio and accounts receivable days, payable days, inventory days,
Mhm.
and that's what we really teach them on. And if you can teach somebody what 10 ratios are, and
Mhm.
if they pay attention to those ratios on a monthly basis, they'll have a good feel for what their company is.
Mhm.
Then another big thing, going back to banks, is teaching them about their bankability. You know, how bankable are you? Because you're going to grow the value of your business. Most business owners are going to have to do it through financing. And I run into a lot of people. I think it's kind of the old school, you know, I don't know. I know that banker. He ain't worth a hoot and, you know, blah, 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 blah. But at the end of the day, it's because you're not a bankable person. You know, you maybe get too much debt. But so we help them create a debt schedule and teach them about their debt service coverage ratio and, you know, just the basics of lending. Because when you get to its simplest form, there's two sides to every loan, cash flow and collateral. So that's a process, getting them to do that. And then the final thing is teaching them about the non-financial things that can really affect the value of their business, or even if it's sellable. I mean, I have a company right now that we're trying to sell, and the owner is very involved in the company. And in this particular industry, there's a shortage of workers. So I am having a very difficult time to find somebody that wants to buy that company, and they already have employees that can absorb as customers. So what happens a lot of times with these non-financial things in a company is it's not that it lowers the value of your company, say from like $1 million to $800,000. It makes the company completely unsellable.
Right.
You know, so those things are very important. So it's just that whole genre. And through the process, we don't do a formal valuation, but they get a good understanding of what their value of their company is. And that is, you know, if I had to leave your listeners with one thing through this whole hour interview or podcast, is whether you plan on retiring in 8 years or 3 months, you need a realistic idea of what your company's worth. Because in the book, I talk about building your teams, you know, so you need to know who's your banker, who's your attorney, who's your CPA, who's your finance guy. Well, once you know the value of your company, you need to go to your finance guy because he's probably the one helping you set up your retirement, and give him that realistic number. What's really sad is when we have a lot of people that come to us, this company I told you about in particular, literally came to me. They had a crash and burn trying to sell the company to a family member. And said,
it's probably never a good idea, especially on your own. Might work if you have a third party involved, but
well, it's a classic case study, let me tell you. So they tried to sell it to a family member. They had a valuation from a large CPA firm, from a CPA. We'll get into that a little bit more later, but the company was way overvalued. It didn't go through. It wasn't a bankable deal. Come to me and said, if I don't sell the business in 3 months, I want to close it down.
Well, that's painful. That's just a little bit of pressure on you.
Sure. And you're leaving hundreds of thousands of dollars on the table. I mean, that's just crazy. So valuation is a very important thing. When we actually trademarked the term bankability method. So when you're valuing a company, there's 3 approaches to valuing a company, and then there's different methods under each approach. So there's the asset approach, which typically is only used when the company's going out of business or the income of the company doesn't create a value greater than its assets.
You might be just piecemealing it off.
Yes. So the second approach would be a market approach. And think of the market approach as like selling your house. You know, choosing real estate every day, right? So if I got a house on this corner that's 1,500 square feet and 3 bedrooms, 2-car garage, and sold for $150,000, and there's an exact same house on the other side of the street, it's probably worth the same, right?
There's those things called comps.
Yes. So we don't hang our hat on the market approach, but certain businesses, you know, like the dental and HVAC companies, there's
kind of some standardization.
There's kind of some standard stuff. So we do take a look at that. But the main thing is the income approach. So here's what I want your listeners to walk away from. When I do the income approach, we hang our hat a lot on what we call the bankability method, meaning if I come up with a value for your company, let's just say $1 million, and you go to a bank, put down a reasonable down payment, in my humble opinion, real estate aside, you should be able to pay for the company in 5 years. So if I set up a loan schedule, is there enough debt? Is there enough cash flow from the company to come up with a debt service coverage ratio that's acceptable to the bank.
Mm-hmm.
So and that bankers love that because
Mm-hmm.
you're putting, you're giving them a good deal to
Right.
finance.
Mm-hmm.
What rubs me wrong with a lot of other valuators is they'll do what's called a future discounted cash flow method,
Mm-hmm.
where they take the current, say the average 3 years has been $400,000.
Mm-hmm.
Then they do a discounted future cash flow method, which says, we think the company is going to grow 3 to 5% to infinity.
Mm-hmm.
And then they bring that back to a present value, and they may value the company, say, on $700,000 or $800,000 in cash flow,
Mm-hmm.
and the company's only currently achieving 400.
Right.
So it comes up with a value of the company that's greatly overflated, and it's not a bankable deal.
Right.
I had this.
Yeah, it's starting out in the hole.
Yes. Yeah. I mean,
I'm not a finance person, and I get that.
Here's the other trap you fall into then. Bankers are salesmen,
Mm-hmm.
and they will sell you a loan. So if there get any bankers listening, I apologize, but hey,
they're a business.
Guess what? I only got a bonus if I made so many loans. So
Mm-hmm. Right. Yep.
part of what will happen is a lot of small business deals are financed by the SBA.
Mm-hmm.
So you can get an SBA 7A loan on a 10-year amort schedule.
Mm-hmm.
So the banker will take this inflated number and say, well, if we spread that out over 10 years, you still get an acceptable debt service coverage ratio.
Yeah.
But you shouldn't be paying for this company for the next 10 years.
No.
So a short story to back that up, when I was buying companies, if I could work out a deal where I could pay for a company in 3 to 5 years, we had that was a trigger. That was a go.
Mm-hmm.
We're ready to go. In the book, I talk about me and my accountant used to butt heads because he was very adamant, and to a certain extent I agree, that you only pay for a company for the cash flow it's producing,
Mm-hmm.
not what it's going to produce under you.
Mm.
So to show you the other side of the fence, though, when Growmark bought my company, I mean, they have a whole acquisition department.
Mm-hmm.
They do this every day.
Right.
So I got to know them pretty good.
Mm-hmm.
And when we was done, I said, what's your trigger? What triggers you to buy this company?
Right.
She said 33%. But it's 33% of the cash of the way they project the cash flow to be under them.
Mm-hmm.
So here's another very valid point for your business owners to think about. When I'm valuing a company, I'm doing a financial valuation. I am valuing the current cash flow of that business.
Mm-hmm.
If you're on the flip side, you said, let's talk about people buying a business. Okay, well, if you're a first-time buyer, there's really no strategic value probably for you to buy that company.
Mm-hmm.
But look at Growmark buying me and me buying other companies.
Mm-hmm.
I knew from a strategic standpoint that when I buy another company, I'm going to wipe out a ton of their operating expenses.
Mm-hmm.
Insurance.
Right, because you're consolidating and
yeah. So the strategic value of me buying another company is typically going to be far greater than the financial value of that company standing by itself. Mm-hmm. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. And that's something very important for your listeners to recognize. And that's why, so here's another thing that gets me going. We was selling an HVAC company. Mm-hmm. And you print off a list of HVAC contractors in the area, right? And I got a hold of another company, and he said, well, why would I want to buy that company? Because it's 100% in the geography that I already cover. I'll just let them go out of business.
And then take over.
Don't do that. Why? I mean, I talk about that, and I keep mentioning the book, but I talk about it in the book. If that company goes out of business, yeah, maybe you do get 10 or 20% of their business. But in my experience with buying companies, if you worked with the owner, paid him a fair price, the old 80-20 rule, 80% of your income comes from 20% of your customers. If he would go with you to those 20% of the customers and say, hey, you know what? I sold my business to Terry because he's a good guy and he's going to treat you right. Give him a chance.
Right.
We 95% of those customers.
Yeah. And you're not going to have to hustle to try and get them.
And it's kind of like a referral, right? You know, we get most of our customers by referrals. And if I get a customer by referral, it's like, that person's going to use you.
Right. Well, and a lot of times it's such a seamless transition. People don't even know. I mean, you know, my home security company, good example. I think I've been through 3 different owners, but never really realized it until the bill was being paid to a different company. You know, this one bought that one and this one bought that one. And it was like, oh, okay. So, service was uninterrupted. You know, I did get new contact information in case I needed something, you know, all those various things. But it was so much easier for me to just stay with the new people than to go and find somebody new.
Yep. So back to the 33%, it falls back to what I was talking about with, if you're going to buy a company, you should, you know, in most circumstances, be able to pay for that company in 3 to 5 years. But be aware of looking at it from a financial perspective versus a strategic. And I'm not, you know, I talk about a story in the book where I had a company, I had 4 or 5 bulk plants, but I had 2 offices that were 30 miles apart. And I had a competitor that was right smack dab in the middle of me. And so for us, a bulk plant is a petroleum storage facility. You know, we sold fuel to farmers, truckers, excavating at 2,000 and 4,000 gallon trucks. So you'd have a storage facility of 100, 150,000 gallons. So this competitor was right in the middle of them 2 offices, bulk plants, and he had a bulk plant also. He wanted what I perceived from a financial value, about $100,000 too much for his company. But from a strategic standpoint, he was a self-operator, so it's just 1 truck. And I knew that if I bought that company, I was going to wipe out 90% of his operating expenses. So, you know, his true cash flow was really the gross profit for me. So from a strategic standpoint, it was still a good deal. Right. But more importantly than the value of the company is this was an area where I had very high customer concentration. In no uncertain circumstances did I want a competitor to come in and buy that company and have a bulk plant right in the middle of my heavily.
Oh, definitely. Well, and it could have been a big company that had a lot of resources that they could throw at really taking the business away from you.
Yeah. So did I pay him $100,000 too much? Yes, I did. And I tore down the bulk plant and nobody was going to build a new one there, just the way it is. And it worked out very well. Right. So, you know, those are some good examples. But I think the main thing out of that is, you know, there's just a lot of steps. So do you know the value of your company? Right. What is your retirement number? Do you have a financial advisor? And, you know, what's your number? What do you need? Right. And is the value of your company right now going to get you there? If it's not going to get you there, then an acquisition maybe is a great way to grow the company. Right. But that's really, I talk about that a lot in the book. That's part of what our coaching program is to helping you build your team of people. I've got an issue going on in my house right now. So I had an HVAC contractor over, and we got into a conversation, and he doesn't know the value of his business. He says, oh, I got about 8 years left. And then I started asking him. And he's like, he's just coming up with, you know, how many business owners are listening right now that I don't know the true value of my business. It's not what Uncle Bob's friend's neighbor told you. Right. You know, what is a realistic value of your company? Even if you've got 8 years left, you know, is that going to get you to your retirement goal? Right. I tell another story in the book about, it was just when I started Innovative. A guy calls me on the phone. He's like, well, I don't need to talk to a business broker. You know, I don't need a business broker, but I wouldn't mind asking you a couple questions. So I said, well, bring your financial statements. You know, and he didn't have financial statements. He just had tax returns. That's another red flag, right? Yeah. So him and his wife come to the office, and they have a small business with about $1.2 million a year in sales. So he throws the tax returns on my desk, and it's like you're supposed to have an answer in 2 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
But I look over things and,
he wanted you to look at that bottom number and
you've got to get to the true cash flow of the company. So that's another thing we can talk about. But I said, is there any personal expenses that you take out of the company, that the new owner wouldn't have?
Mm-hmm.
He said, nope, mom takes care of the books and everything's squeaky clean. I'm like, all right. So I kind of look things over and you add back the depreciation. And if there's no personal expenses or anything to normalize or add back. And I said, well, I don't know. I think the company's probably worth around $250,000.
Mm-hmm.
He looks up at the ceiling. She looks out the window, and it's got that eerie silence, right?
And you're thinking, I've said something wrong.
Yeah, and the next thing you know, there's a tear running down mom's eye. And
Oh,
it's like,
no.
okay, time out. What's going on?
Yep.
And he said, well, my company's got over $1.2 million a year in sales. I thought for sure the company was easily worth over $1 million.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, no, that's, it goes the value, the company goes off the cash flow.
Mm-hmm.
And about that time, the mom speaks up and she says, well, our credit card bill is $5,000 a month. I'm like, well, there you go. That's $60,000,
Right.
So, and she said that credit card bill is, groceries, gas,
Mm-hmm.
restaurants, stuff like that, all personal stuff.
Right.
So
Stuff that they shouldn't be coming out of the business, but that's a different.
That's another story, right?
Uh-huh.
But at the end of the day, the company maybe was probably worth $500,000.
Mm-hmm.
But guess when they wanted to exit their business?
Soon.
In the next 3 months,
She had a cruise in mind, right?
Yeah. So that's just a sad story. I mean, it's nobody wants to talk about exit planning, but I call it the ostrich syndrome.
Mm-hmm.
You got to get your head out of the sand.
Right.
So here's another, we touched on financial statements and cash flow. I have 2 mantras that I talk about all the time. One, your company is not about sales and net income. It's about gross profit and cash flow.
Mm-hmm.
I don't care what your sales are. How much money are you making?
Mm-hmm.
And then the other thing, when you're selling your company, I don't care what you sell your company for. It's all about how much money do you get to keep,
right,
taxes after you sell the company.
Mm-hmm.
So those are 2 very, very important things to remember. So when you write a book, I used a book coach, and you're supposed to write a first page, something that's going to grab you.
Mm-hmm.
So my first page is about an actual company that I bought. The purchase price was well over $1 million. And me and the owner and I had worked out the purchase price,
Mm-hmm.
and we was working on a purchase agreement. And there's this tricky little thing called the allocation of assets.
Mm-hmm.
So let's just say it was $1 million. You can agree that the value of the company to sell it for $1 million.
Mm-hmm.
But how you allocate that purchase price to the assets of the company can have a huge tax implication.
Mm-hmm.
So the buyer, if you're buying a company, you will always want to put as much value on the equipment as possible,
Mm-hmm.
because then you can redepreciate it off.
Mm-hmm.
If you're the seller, you'll want to put as much value of that company to goodwill.
Right.
Because the tax difference, and I'm not, again, get your CPAs mad at me. I'm not a CPA, but let's just say capital gains tax is, or ordinary income is going to be around 40%,
Mm-hmm.
and tax on goodwill is probably going to be 15 to 18%.
Yeah.
So
I like that number better.
Exactly. So what my 2 accountants were butting heads about
Mm-hmm.
was the allocation of the assets, because I needed as much value on the equipment as possible. I mean, because we wanted to redepreciate it, but also for banking purposes.
Mm-hmm.
I needed it for the collateral of the loan.
Mm-hmm.
And the other accountant was obviously wanting to get as much more in goodwill because of the tax implications. So it was a very real thing, and it was very heated discussions. And finally I had to call the seller and say, look, this is the way it's got to be. You got to tell your CPA to back off. Mm-hmm. So it's really tricky, So we trademarked the name "You Don't Know What You Don't Know," mm-hmm. And I'm very happy And I don't want to count my chickens before they hatch, but I think the book's going to get picked up by a publisher. So,
Ooh, nice.
and we plan on creating a series of
Mm-hmm.
books, You Don't Know What You Don't Know. So
Mm-hmm.
the byline on my book is everything you need to know to buy or sell a business.
Mm-hmm.
My partner has a book written, all canned up and ready to go. So his book will be You Don't Know What You Don't Know. And it's going to be something like the steps to get top dollar for your business. But the basic of the book is he talks about this is, and it's a true story. Obviously, don't mention names, but it was one business that decided to sell the business on his own, and another business that went through a broker, and just the contrast and how things were handled. So I'm not trying to promote us as a broker, but man, to the true essence of you don't know what you don't know. There's a lot of there's so many landmines in selling a business that if you use somebody that to help you through it, it makes a big difference.
Right. Well, and you mentioned selling a house. We always think that our house is worth, and you even mentioned it with these the other examples. As the business owner, we always think it's worth more. Especially because we put our blood, sweat, tears, everything we've had into it for maybe most of our life. And so we're going to value it here. And, that unbiased third party, which is the broker, which is the advisor, whoever you end up working with, they're the ones that are, as you said, bring them back, back to earth. And there are so many things that you have to deal with as you're going through either buying or selling a business. We just don't know. We don't know. Like you said, we don't know what we don't know. And so there's no way that unless you've done this a lot, that you know everything. And of course, then you have so many things that fall into play with taxes, obviously federal and then state. I mean, what the heck if you're in two different states? We've got a lot of foreign investors that listen to this program. Okay, that's a totally different bailiwick. So that's where it is good to work with, a company like yours who knows all of that or can find it out.
Yeah. It's interesting. A non-financial thing that really affects the value of a business is recurring income. Companies with recurring income will always sell for a higher multiple than transactional companies. So that's why with Innovative, we're kind of making a subtle shift. We're always going to be the brokerage side, but we're really wanting to build up our CEO to CEO program. And we just came up with the logo, and that's really all come about in the past 3 months. So it's not even on our website yet, I don't think. But but a coaching program has recurring revenue. And the thing that's interesting is I can find people and teach, retired CPAs, teach people to teach our coaching program. It's not rocket science. And I don't mean that to be disrespectful to people that don't know their finances, because it's normal. But it's hard to teach somebody how to do brokering because it's so much experience. And, I've bought companies contract for deed. I've bought companies, separate by what you pay for the business, and the real estate was different, and 100% bank financing. I've done 2 companies on earnouts. So that's a way to sell a company too. Those 2 companies were distressed and wasn't sure who I would get to keep or whatever. So we gave them 25% of the gross profit for the customers that we kept for 1 year. And it turned out to be a pretty fair deal for them, because otherwise they was going to close the door, and get nothing. So there's a lot of ways to skin a cat, as they say,
and it is complicated, and then, you toss in the fact, like you said, with maybe a family member that's involved, or, worse, what if you've got family members that you're selling the business away from? They've worked there forever, and, oh, golly gee, Dad, what do you mean I'm not going to get the company? Or maybe you want to do it as, employees are purchasing the business. I mean, like you said, there's just so many different ways to think of all of this.
So here's another one that I run into quite a bit also is, and I'll bet you any money you have a couple of listeners right now in exactly this position. They know who they want to sell their company to.
Right.
And it's a sibling or a key employee or something like that. Like, I'm selling my business to Bob. So it comes time for Bob to buy the business, but guess what?
Bob has $10,000 and that's it.
Yes, exactly. Bob don't have no money, you know. So I've run into bankers and they call that all of the knowledge and none of the money. So please be aware of that. I mean, I worked with a company for 2 years and they just finished a transaction. Dad was selling it to his son, but that was a big problem. And the dad ended up financing a good chunk of it just because the kid wasn't bankable, you know? I mean, so it's something, gosh, there's so many things. It's just like I said, it can be as simple can be, or it can be a landmine. I mean, the fastest company I bought was in 3 days.
Wow.
But
I'm guessing they had all of their ducks in a row. They planned.
No, actually, that was one of the distressed companies that I bought. I found out about it on a Wednesday. I called him, and the guy said it was a deal where there was a death, so one of the 5 Ds. He willed the company to his niece or something, and she
wanted no part of it, right?
Well, and she started losing money like crazy, and he was going to close the business on Friday. This was a friend helping her. I said, "What are you doing with the business? We're closing the doors on Friday. What are you doing with your customers?" I'm telling them to go someplace else. And like, whoa, hold the door. I'll be right there. So, you know, I guess there's a couple of things that are really, there's another situation where there's going to get no value from the company. But again, if you're the buyer and you got your ears open, you can really end up with some sweet deals. You know, that particular business, I ended up with just a ton of commercial accounts, asphalt plants, concrete plants, the city. And the thing of it is, I would have never, ever gotten them customers just with a salesman calling on them. I switch, you know, just like you with your security company. Why would you want to go through the hassle? You know, and the other security company is probably going to be about the same price. So there's just not a great incentive there. So,
you know, and we're not talking about taking advantage of people and, you know, and especially in, say, a situation of a death or something like that. You know, it's, you still want to be fair to them, you know, but there is probably going to be an advantage to you. I mean, you know, let's be honest, that's the way the business world works.
Yeah. I had another situation with the death. We had found out that a company was wanting to sell. So my father and I went and talked to him. It's kind of sweet, actually. You know, it's an older couple. Poor planning. He never turned business over to his son, and his son was quitting. So they're in their 70s, and they have this oil company. And we meet at their house, and everything's orange, you know, so it's all like from the 1970s. And we had a great conversation with them. And about 2 weeks goes by, and I never heard back from him. So I gave him a call, and the mom, you know, answers the phone. Sylvester's, the Sylvester Oil Company.
And you're like, okay, that's new.
Yeah. So I said, "Hi, Mrs. Sylvester." I said, you know, told him who it was. We had a conversation with you and Alex, your husband, and just curious what's going on. And she said, "Oh, I'm so happy you called. Alex had a stroke and he can't talk."
Oh, no.
So and she's like, it was a smaller company. She's like, it was very cold in wintertime. And she's like, and our truck won't start. And I have customers that need deliveries. Would you start taking care of them for us? So this was like February. Finally, you know, I get to April, and I'm like, "Mrs. Sylvester, I have to pay you something for this company." So again, it was I didn't take advantage of her. We paid her for her company. More importantly, we helped her dismantle the company because you know, this poor lady's in her mid-70s. She doesn't know
dealing with her husband. That's, you know.
So, gosh, just, you got a plan. Don't have the ostrich syndrome. Get your head out of the sand and wake up. So here's another thing that I see often. And I talked about it with this guy yesterday because he had bought the business from a previous person. I call it the glider effect. I'm showing you on the screen.
I'm coasting.
But no, think about it. So a glider doesn't have an engine, right? So I see a ton of situations where the owner took his foot off the gas 5 years ago. And it's just gone.
Yeah, because without an engine, it is going to go down.
Yeah, so it's lost $200,000 in cash flow. So, if a typical company, if you're going to get 3 multiple for it, and you lost $200,000 in cash flow, that's 600 grand that just went out the window. I valued a dental practice, and oh my God, the value of it went from like 3 million to $1 million in 5 years. I said, what's going on? He's like, I'm tired, dude. I just don't want to work the hours.
Yeah. So he cut back his hours, which cut back the income, and
So, he should have sold the companies a couple of years prior, and literally could have walked away with a couple more $1 million in his pocket.
Right.
So,
well, and it's interesting. One of the things that I have learned through all of this is, maybe I'm not going to sell my business, and my business is pretty much me. So I'm not even sure that, there's anything, there's obviously asset value, but there's not, and so, but I still should be thinking like I'm going to, because then I'm going to be planning for growth. I'm going to be doing strategic planning. I'm going to be doing all of those things that as a good business owner, I should be doing no matter what. And I think that's the thing that I really want to emphasize to people is, you might really not want to sell your business. I mean, whatever it is, you might just not want to sell it. You might be one of those people that I'm going to work till the day I die. But you still should be thinking, how can I value this business, or so that somebody actually might want to buy it, and just to have those good solid business practices along the way that you should be doing no matter what.
Yeah. And it's to a certain extent, you also want to say it's not all about you.
Right.
What if so your business is basically you. Unfortunately, my business is still like that also. But, if I get hit by a bus tomorrow, who's going to run it? What's going to happen?
Right.
So, you meant, I don't want to change gears.
Because there is kind of almost the exit planning strategy. I mean, say the business doesn't get sold. Well, somebody still needs to close it, is maybe the easiest way to put that. And so you should take those steps so that your employees, your loved ones, your whoever aren't having to go, well, what's the password to her computer?
Well, that's exactly what I was just going to say. Not only that, it can be your customers.
Right.
We ran across an insurance company where the owner was single owner insurance company, and he suddenly passed away, had a heart attack or something. Nobody knew the passwords.
Right.
Nobody could service his customers. I mean, it was a disaster.
They couldn't notify them that they were going to have to find somebody else.
Yeah. So it is important. There was another thing I wanted to talk about for your buyers that may be listening. We talked about a strategic acquisition. So I own an HVAC company and I want to buy another one, or I own a security company and I want to buy another one. We have a lot of people that come to us and say, I want to buy a company.
I want to become a business owner.
That's right. And the typical person is working in corporate America. They're 40 years old. They've got a big 401k, or, they got some cash, and they want to buy a business.
Right. Because they're tired of working for the man.
That's right. What kind of business do you want to buy? Well, I don't know.
A profitable one.
And revenue and has a nice growth trend to it. It's like, well, good luck, you and everybody else too.
Right.
So, but here's what we label those type of buyers as time killers, because they don't know what they want to buy. They're going to be nervous about it. And
they're the looky-loos.
Yep. And as soon as they get to the end of the diving board, they're not going to jump.
Yeah.
So if you're one of those people that wants to buy a business and, you're working in corporate America, or like you said, working for the man, do some research in what you want to buy. Know what you're looking for, because the other problem that you're going to have with a lot of banks on the bankability side of it is, excuse me, they're not going to want to sell. They're not going to want to lend you the money to buy that company if you don't have any experience.
Right. why would why would a bank want to lend me money to buy an HVAC company if I don't have the foggiest idea what HVAC means?
how it works. So,
Right.
so that is a big deal. Another thing to think about, and it's one of the non-financial things that we talk about, the working capital that it takes to buy a company.
Mm-hmm.
So think of buying a company as writing two checks. You write one check for the value of the company, but then you also have to have another check to support the accounts receivable, inventory, and
Right.
stuff like that.
Yeah,
That's
because
why,
the day you take that business over, you got bills to pay.
or another thing to think about for the business owner, and I mean, this does apply if you're the buyer, and I can give you some quick examples, is if you're the buyer and you're financing that purchase, and we sold a drilling company, and they had about a $500,000 accounts receivable, and their accounts receivable days were about 90. So that means it takes 90 days to churn that accounts receivable. So that our buyer came from a family business, but you're going to have to fund that $500,000 because because you're going to have a lot of bills to pay in that 90 days, employees, wages, and the light bill and everything else before your money starts flowing. So that could affect, so as we're kind of go back to the buyer, that could affect who buys your company and what you ultimately get for your company, because somebody's got to may have to also finance that accounts receivable.
Right.
And for your business owners that are listening, that's some of the key ratios that we love to teach people is accounts receivable days, inventory days, and payable days. Those can all be very important, because I'll give you an example of my company. Back in the day, you got to pay for fuel in 10 days. Our average receivable was like 27. Our average payable, and in total, our average payables were like 12 days. And our average receivables were 27. So there's 15 days that you have to fund.
Right.
And if your sales are $100,000 a day, that's 1.5 million. When we sold the company, our sales were well over $200,000 a day. So that's $3 million that whoever bought my company was going to be writing a check for, the fund that accounts receivable and the $1 million worth of inventory that I got. So that as it was a very big company that bought it. It didn't matter, but it could.
Well, and that's where it gets tricky, is to do that due diligence. You might think, oh, that looks cool. I worked for a company when I was first out of college that, great company, worked for them for quite a while, but we wrote software for the government for two big branches of the government. It was great working with them, and the nice thing was, they had their procedures, and part of my responsibility was invoicing. Now, the problem was the government never, ever pays quickly. That's just, and that's just the nature of that beast. And if there was one tiny little thing wrong on an invoice, not only did they not pay you, they didn't tell you. And so we had to have a really big line of credit that just kind of rolled with all of that. And, so, for somebody who might be thinking about buying that business, they would need to know, okay, they've got this huge amount of sales, but it's with people who pay 120 days, so, and it really was 120 days often.
Here's another thing to think about also, because I've run into this before from buying companies. You need to look at the aged accounts receivable, like you said. So this is a government. You're not going to get them to pay any quicker. But I've also run into situations where the seller is very lackadaisical about collecting his receivables for all of his customers.
Yeah, they might put, net 10 on their invoices, but 30, 45, I like you, Bob, you can pay in 50 days.
But if you're going to buy that business and you have a set policy, say you got to pay in 30 days or 10 days, and all these guys are out here at 60 or 90 days,
they're not going to be happy.
And this is what kills you. And believe me, I've had this happen 1,000 times. You buy the company, you take that customer that's paying in 90 days, and you try and wrangle him back into 30 days, and he gets mad and quits.
Right.
And he goes to your competitor who he pays in 30 days.
I know. And it's like, wait a minute.
Yeah. So be wary of that. Customer concentration is also another one. So be cautious that, not, that you have an 80-20 situation and not that 3 of the customers are the top, 95% of sales.
Right.
But, another thing that we haven't touched on that's really non-value financial related is culture. Culture is a big thing. And especially with the shortage of employees that are coming up, I talk to a lot of people that they want to learn about the culture of the company before they ever even care about looking at the financials. What's employee turnover? Is it okay if Bob or Susie's 10 minutes late to work because they had to take a kid to school, or they had a kid that was sick? Or what if they, can they leave early to go to
work from home? All that various stuff.
Yeah. So that's getting to be a very, very important aspect.
I bet.
And it's something that, how can you, if you're valuing a company, how do you put a value on that,
But you're right. It definitely needs to be mentioned. And, and so as you're doing the due diligence, maybe you discover that every other Friday, half of the workforce is home. They're going to work from home, or, whatever it is. Yeah. Is that the way you want to do business? And all of those various things.
I know we're getting close to the end. There's just so many things. It's funny. Another thing that popped into my mind, due diligence. You brought up due diligence. Due diligence questions are absolutely important because, if that skeleton's in the closet, if you want to ask about it, they're probably not going to bring it up,
Oh, yeah, especially if it might be a little questionable.
We ended up buying a company after I sold the oil company, ended up buying another company, and it was in a field that I wasn't familiar with, but the partner I was buying it with was. But he never bought a lot of companies. And, I'm used to buying bulk plants and trucks and kicking tires. And I knew what I was looking at, if it was good, bad, or otherwise. When we bought this company, didn't think about asking, what's the phone system like? How old are the computers? They had software for the business that they was in, but nobody was properly trained on it.
Right.
Nobody had gotten a raise in like 5 years.
Oh.
So more than we bought it, everybody's coming with their hand out because they're all kind of underpaid. So, man, like I said, there's just a lot of tricky questions. I don't want to scare people off from doing it, but, make sure you do your research on what you're buying.
Right. Well, and there are obviously benefits to buying an existing business. We all love the thought of being the entrepreneur, but there's also an awful lot of people who aren't entrepreneur. They don't want to start from scratch, or maybe they're, buying multiple businesses, or as you said, buying, expanding, doing acquisitions, all of these various things. And so it really does make sense to think about all of these, and even if you're perfectly happy with where you are right now, you'll think that, okay, in 10 years, we'll be retired. What do we want to be doing? And maybe it is that we have a small, another small home-based business or something like that. So you start planning for it now. Maybe you're starting to save for that. I mean, whatever it is, be thinking about that.
It's the first chapter in my book. I'll talk about buying existing businesses versus trying to start something from scratch. And again, not, from the buyer's perspective, again, think of the glider path. Think of I talk about some good deals I got on buying companies. A lot of those people are on the glider path. So, if they've got some good employees and stuff, there's a really good possibility that you buy that company and you put, the owner's getting older, so he doesn't update equipment. He doesn't update software. And you come back in, he lets down on the marketing. There's just so many situations you can come in, buy a company and get a good bump up in the first couple of years just by putting some energy back into the company, if that's a fair word.
Right. Yeah, because, if they're wanting to sell the business, it's kind of like the short timer syndrome. You know that you've given your 2-week notice, and so you're just going to kind of do enough to make sure that you can still get through those 2 weeks. It's not that you're going to sit there and not do anything, but so now, and that's obviously for the people who are, have said, okay, we're selling the business. It's, but yeah, it's great. And so it's to me, it comes back to your book. You just don't know what you don't know. And so I love it. I have not had the opportunity to read your book yet. And so I'm looking forward to doing that. But, it is available. I have the page up here on my other monitor. It is available on Amazon. But you can get information on your website. So tell us a little bit more about your company and what you do.
Yeah. So Innovative Business Advisors, the book is a great, it's a must read for business owners. It's not long. It's a short little book. There's questions at the end of each chapter that, as I was reading it, all right, that was the last thing I did in writing the book, was write those questions. And that was really the aha of, you know what, if you read this book, you're going to learn something. But, we help people buy and sell companies. We do business valuations and coaching all across the country via Zoom. So it doesn't have to be local to the St. Louis area where I happen to live. Go Cardinals. And we have the Stanley Cup St. Louis Blues. If you go to the website, there is a ton of information.
There is. There's lots of resources there.
Lots of podcasts that I've been on.
This is the best, though.
Yeah. And, it's notable, not to self-promote, but the book was listed in Forbes magazine as one of the top 10 go-to books for business in 2019.
Oh, I love it.
The other thing I'd like to bring up real quick is if there's people out there and they need a speaker for an association event or whatever, I do want to get more into the public speaking realm. And there you could watch a clip of me speaking on the media page of our website. So I do a couple different things, whatever people are talking about. The main things I've been talking about with the speaking is valuation and getting to the true cash flow of a company, and talking about the non-financial things that affect the value of the company. So I can be pretty entertaining.
Yeah, this has been great. And it's fun. I always know it's going well when I message my, for people who are watching or listening, I message my guests throughout the thing. And when I'm doing the just 5 minutes left, I always know it's going well. And I'm like, oh, there's just 5 minutes left. And to me, it's just fun to be talking about this. As I said, whether you're wanting to buy a business, sell a business, it's still things that you should be thinking about.
Yeah, especially, if people are involved with associations, gosh, it's a remarkable panel session, because just to get people to open up and ask questions about it. I mean, it's just funny what we do is you're trying to sell a company, but not tell anybody that's for sale.
Right. Oh yeah, because you don't want to lose your customers and or your employees.
Yeah. So give me a call to speak at your association meeting, where you don't have to be afraid that, you go to your local chamber and ask about selling a company. It's like, you're selling your company?
Yeah.
And if you're the seller, don't be upset about it. It's a natural process. You're going to exit your business. It trust me, it's funny. I mean, I had a pretty big company, and people talked about it for about 3 months, and then poof, it's done.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. And I mean, your employees want to know that they're still going to have a job, or that there's a plan for them. I mean, because they might not still have a job. I mean, we mentioned the fact that, sometimes you're consolidating. So maybe you have 4 accountants and you need one, and so they want to know that they're going to be treated fairly. And then the customers, same thing. They want to know that all of a sudden you're not going to triple their rates, all of those various things.
Yeah, it's funny. We always this was back in the day before emails, so much. So I'm showing my age a little bit, but we would mail out a letter and the company that we bought in their envelope with a letter from the owner on top that says, hey, I sold my company to this guy, give him a chance, and a letter from us behind that saying, hey, welcome you as a new customer. We'll take care of you. We got all the products and everything that, the prior person did. And inevitably, the first thing that comes to their mind is, where am I going to get my fuel?
Yeah. They just want to know that they're taken care of.
And that's why it is important to go touch those customers right out of the gate, because if you don't, your competitor will be. So, and for those of you that might be buying or selling a company, you talked about the employees. That is a big thing. My favorite words while I was going through any process was to the employees, keep an open mind. Just, yes, there's going to be some change, but just keep an open mind. We'll get through this, So,
and you might lose people, but
inevitably,
maybe they weren't the best people anyway. So, and
the whole culture.
It's funny. We're about to go overtime, and that's fine because it's my program. I can do what I want. I was with a big company that went through several mergers and acquisitions, and I was head of corporate communications. All the employees wanted to know was what was going on, not the nitty gritty details, but just a little bit about what was going on. Because the problem is, if you don't tell them, they're gonna make it up. And because it's like, and anything happens. I mean, you decide to take half the day off. Well, it's because you're going to meet the person who's buying it. No, you just and so it's best always communicate with everybody.
Yep. I agree 110%. Man, we could go on for another 15 minutes.
We could, hour. We could go for another hour, which just means, Terry, that we need to have you on again, because it's to me, like I said, it's a fun topic. I love talking about it. But until the next time we chat, is there anything that you want to leave our listeners and our viewers with?
Oh, just do your due diligence and plan. Know the value of your company. Have a realistic expectation. Got any questions, give me a call. My phone number is 654-530-8922. The website is www.innovativebaboyapple.com.
Perfect. I love it. Well, I really have been having so much fun talking with Terry Lammers today. I'm Deb Creer, and until next time, everyone have a great day.
Thank you, everybody. Have fun.
Tune in for our next program for even more trends, best practices, and techniques for how to make your business a success. The Business Power Hour, hosted by Deb Creer, is proud to be part of the C-Suite Network.